We're very happy to see you all here. And for Amstream, it actually shows interest and openness to discuss potential changes in the future educational system, not only in Denmark or Armenia, but actually globally. We believe that connecting pioneers from two idea-generating countries as Armenia and Denmark, it can lead to global solutions. Amstream was founded in 2013 by young Danes and Armenians who saw a great opportunity in building a bridge between the countries. By having immense knowledge, great network, and language skills, we both understood where to find the opportunities, some of them that others couldn't see. And by looking at projects from both sides, we only decided to accept projects that were good for both sides, actually sustainable projects, who embraced equal partnerships. After the panel debate, you will have the chance to experience one example of this through one of our biggest achievements within education. You'll learn about Denmark's first export of state-certified education and the role that Amstream has played in enabling this project. The Danish school will open its doors in Armenia September 2015. Going back to this event, I truly think that our team can be proud of attracting such talented panelists. We're working on developing models that will prepare future generations and to embrace the unknowns. We think that this challenge has never been bigger. How do you prepare children for an unknown future? We certainly do not have all the answers, but I'm very sure that our panelists, speakers, and moderator will provide interesting perspectives, inspire you throughout the evening, and tell you about already existing success stories and solutions. The evening will end with pitches from two startups from Armenia that will hopefully also inspire you for the future. One company in Armenia has managed to connect all schools on one platform. We believe this is something that Denmark could be inspired of, and they are ready for international growth. The other company was founded this year, and they create opportunities for children to design toys for children. The founder went with us to Lego a couple of days ago, and there was a lot of inspiration. Both have won our Reimagining Education competition that we held a couple of months ago in Armenia. And finally, I can proudly say that we couldn't imagine a more suitable person to act as a moderator for this event. Mette Kimposted. Mette is a founding board member at Amstream. She has a degree from this exact school, Copenhagen Business School. And she also has a degree from Harvard within technology and education. Mette and I organized a study trip to Armenia in 2012 for 26 students. And this is where we realized the huge potential. And already back in 2012, we discussed organizing an event like this. Besides being a graduate, she also has her educational and technology company, but most importantly, the topic of reimagining education is her inner true passion. I think we have a very interesting and important evening in front of us, so I won't take too much time on introducing, but I would rather give more time experiencing and imagining interesting projects that could be streamed across borders. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Leslie, for the very nice introduction. I'm super happy to be here, and I'm very, very pleased with this extraordinary panel. So many great and inspiring things going on that, I hope we can all learn from. But before we dive into the panel discussion, I would like to briefly present some of the ways that education has been reimagined before. This is not the first time, and it's not the first time that technology plays a role either in this reimagination. So let's see, let's start with the first. Okay, I'm just going to read this quote to you. Books will soon be obsolete in the schools. It is possible to teach every branch of human knowledge with the and then fill in the blanks. This is a technology. Our school system will be completely changed in the next 10 years. Give it a thought. What do you think this technology might be that is going to revolutionize our educational system? Could you take the next slide, please? It is the motion picture, and it's Thomas Edison in 1913 predicting that the motion picture, which, by the way, at this point in time did not have audio, was going to revolutionize education. This was how children was going to learn. Then came the 1930s and the radio. And then we put children in front of the radio because we thought that was how children were going to learn. 1950s, television. Imagine a photo here. It did not, no, we have some technical issues. But one of the critiques, 10 years after in the 1950s and the 1960s, one of the critiques was that the mediocre instructional quality of some of the programs that were produced for television to teach children were not good enough because many of them did little more than present a teacher delivering a lecture. And I want you to note this. This is a critique of the 1950s system, and I want you to note it because we'll talk about what are some of the current trends in education, and keep this in mind because maybe it's not too different from what we're trying to do today. Then came the advent of computers in the 1980s, and again we thought putting computers in front of kids was going to revolutionize learning. Didn't happen. Then came the internet, and this is when it gets interesting because with the internet you can interact. You can interact with information. You can search. You can interact with other people online, and you can interact with your instructor. And this meant that now we had to rethink what we were teaching in schools, because before we were teaching all this knowledge that now children could access online. So then people began to talk about what has been called 21st century skills. And here is a word cloud of all the fabulous different technological and otherwise skills such as creativity, collaboration, problem solving, that children are expected to learn in this century to thrive in the 21st century. So the question becomes, how do we teach these skills? Do we think that the traditional school system is adequate? Or what role can technology play in facilitating learning, this new type of learning, these 21st century skills? And how well must students understand technology to thrive in the 21st century? That's a whole other branch. Do we all need to know how to program? Is that the future? Let me just give you, this looks overwhelming, but this is a brief overview of some of the trends in education currently that some of our panel members will also be touching on and talking about. Distance learning, which means that you are teaching students, often on an individual basis, who are not physically present in a classroom. One of the major examples of this currently is what is called the massive open online courses. And these are created by the leading universities in the United States. Harvard is creating MOOCs, Stanford is creating MOOCs, and a ton of other universities, including actually the Technical University of Denmark, and we have a representative here who can speak more to what that looks like and what the learning involved might be. Then there's something called blended learning. And blended as is kind of similar to mixing, so it means you mix different approaches. You mix the online, perhaps distance learning, with experience in a physical classroom with a physical teacher. So blended learning can be everything from the Khan Academy, which some of you may have heard of, and the flipped classroom model, where what happens is the kids, instead of going home to do their homework, they go home to watch a video of a lecture, and then they return to school to do the homework in the classroom with the teacher helping them. So it's a new way of thinking education. But there are many different ways that blended learning can take place. Adaptive learning, as it says, tailoring learning to individual needs. Again, adaptive learning can be many, many different things, and I'm excited to have like Jule Christensen from Area 9 on the panel, because he has developed an adaptive learning platform, and he can speak a lot more to what exactly that means. Experiential learning, learning by doing, hands-on learning. Here we have a representative from Experimental, and we also have a representative from Instigate. It's very much about how can we experiment with things and then derive theory from our experiences. Finally, constructivism is another approach that holds that we learn best when we create things. That means we need to engage with matter, with material. It can also be creating something online, such as programming, but we learn best by being creative. So these are some of the streams, and I know this might be very technical, and it's also to give a picture that education is a complex affair. It can be really complex, and there are tons of different methodologies and approaches and opinions. And I hope that after today's panel debate, we'll all be wiser on what works and what doesn't work and what do we need to think more about. So, before diving into the panel debate, I would like to present our panelists. Let me see. Yeah, as already mentioned, I'll start with Ulrik Juhl Christensen, who is the CEO of Area 9. Area 9 is an adaptive learning system. It adjusts to the level of the need of the learner, essentially. And as I said, Ulrik will speak a lot more to that. It's the most widespread learning system with more than 2 million student users currently. And it's catering primarily to university students, but I was told that they're piloting also in the elementary school space. The idea arose when Ulrik, as a medical student, was alarmed by the many flaws that were committed by his colleagues in the medical space. And he realized they were because of basic gaps in knowledge. So he wanted to design a platform that would take into account the different gaps of different people. So it had to be adapted to the individual. I can tell you that Area 9 was recently, in January of this year, acquired by McGraw-Hill, which is a large, very large publishing company in the United States. From TUMO Center of Creative Technologies, we have Mary-Lou Papazian. TUMO is an after-school program that was established in 2011. It was established to teach young people, the 12 to 18-year-olds, about these creative technologies. So it has its own adaptive software that takes students through a learning path. And students can pick one of 4 different paths. They can learn animation, game development, web development, or multimedia. So all skills that would fall under the umbrella of the 21st century skills. And the idea with the TUMO Center is exactly to prepare students for the jobs in this new digital economy. It's a very free environment. Students go by their own pace, and several thousand students have gone through the program so far. From the Armenian Virtual College, welcome to Yerevan, Sonia. The Armenian Virtual College is an online educational institution that it delivers distance learning to the Armenian diaspora. Armenian diaspora means to say all of the Armenians who live outside of Armenia, and that's quite a lot of people. It delivers education in 3 main areas: history, culture, and language, so to introduce Armenians to their own nation. And they recently added chess courses as well. They've spread to 65 countries. They have thousands of students, and the content is translated into 7 different languages. Arman, we'll jump over here. Arman Pogosyan is from Instigate. And Instigate is an incubator for engineering companies. And that doesn't sound like it has much to do with education, but what happened is that this incubator realized that the supply of engineers that were coming out of Armenian graduate schools did not have the high quality that they needed. So they realized they actually needed to give these graduate students some extra education. So they started their own training center, but soon after they realized that it's too late to start with university students, so now they're trying to get engineering sort of into or working with a younger population. So they're actually working in 20 schools, teaching 5th graders and up how to program. And then they teach them how to create their own robots by designing and printing the parts using a 3D printer. From Experimental, we have Morten Busk. The Experimental is an independent science communication center that promotes the interest of natural science and technology to the general public, primarily young people. And most Danes, myself included, I think know the Experimentarium as this interactive exhibition where we go to play and experience hands-on sensory physical learning. But in fact, Experimentarium does more than that, a lot more. They also do teacher training where they use an experiential methodology to try and bridge the gap in science and technology in schools. And they are creating online tools to support learning in the interactive exhibition so that students can come in with knowledge before and learn more after. Finally, our final member from the Technical University of Denmark, so Learning Lab, Kasper Skovhøj. Kasper Skovhøj works at the Learning Lab, which is here to inspire and support teachers, students, and management to improve the quality of instruction. So they do this both pedagogically, but in that they also include a lot of technology. So they test different technologies that can be used in the classroom to facilitate learning. They've created a blended learning math course. And as I mentioned before, more recently, they've also launched 2 courses on the Coursera platform. So these are massive open online courses that you have helped create. Yeah, so welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here. Yeah, is this better? Yeah, okay, perfect. Sorry, thank you. Okay, so the format of the debate is going to be the following. I will ask some questions in the next 45 minutes to an hour, and then I would love for you all to think about questions that you might have, because there will be time for you to engage with the panel, and we will have 15-20 minutes of question time. So please, yeah, if a question pops up, don't discard it, keep it in mind, and we'll have it at the end. I'll try to ask some broad questions, so that everyone gets a chance to participate. But that said, if something is intriguing, I might just poke at one of you. But feel free to grab the mic anytime you have something to say. Okay? I'll start with a broad question, or whether technology in the form of online learning is replacing the physical teacher. And here I thought actually to start with you, Kasper, because now you have this massive course with distance learning up on the Coursera platform. So is distance learning the future? Can we do away with physical learning environments?
Well, we have 2 MOOCs at the moment, and in addition to those, we also use the Coursera platform internally at DTU. In the strategy, the e-learning strategy for DTU is the technical university, sorry. It's pretty clear that we are here to educate the local students and not the world around us. So it's a kind of byproduct, a nice side effect if we also can cater to other people. Of course, there is some degree of promotion involved in putting a course online like that. And certainly the experiences we've had so far has been overwhelming. It's still, with the MOOC, you have maybe less than 10% graduating the course eventually, but you have had so many more people exposed to your university and your teaching. So in that sense, it's also a marketing side effect we get out of it. But we are very clear that we're doing this for the local students. So in that sense, we are not about to actually replace teachers at the campus, because they still interact a lot, and especially the way we use the MOOC platforms for learning locally, we use them very much for actually blended learning. So it's a way to move the human resources from just lecturing to interaction, and that's a big trend which is catching on right now.
Okay. Yeah.
This is something I feel pretty passionate about. I'm being asked this by every single journalist and by every single audience, whether the very advanced platforms we are developing are like, it's at every single university and college in the US. Will the teachers go away? As late as Tuesday, I had a keynote for some K-5, that's kindergarten through 5th graders in an interventional meeting in Phoenix. I was asked by the audience, will this take over our jobs? And the answer is, despite what many of the adaptive companies out there are saying in order to attract capital, the answer is absolutely no. Why? Because what happened in healthcare, my old profession, in healthcare back 30, 40, 50 years ago, how did we find out that a patient had diabetes? It tasted the patient's urine. It's pretty attractive not to have to do that anymore. Next step, 30, 40 years far forward, do we have more technology today in healthcare than we had 30, 40, 50 years ago? Absolutely yes. Do we have a less need for doctors? No. Do we increase standards of care? Yes. I think we will see exactly the same thing in education. What did we see in healthcare in terms of more poor areas of the world? Have we been able to spread higher quality healthcare to poorer and developing countries? Yes. Has that taken away the need for doctors? No. So I think it's a relevant question to ask, but I'm absolutely convinced that what will happen instead is we'll increase the general quality of education, but we'll enhance it with technology. The technology will not take over.
Thank you. I think maybe Denmark has a comment to on that, since you are working with distance learning.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, let me try to put my spin on that. I think teaching has multiple aspects. And learning, the reason we go to school is for a number of things. Not only understanding the content, but also to be able to interact with each other, between students, with the professor, exam aspect, and so on. So there's more than just grabbing knowledge. The key part of the school is making the kids learn how to interact with each other. If we can replace that in online form, that would complete the school system. Now, I think the first one, that is content delivery, is possible with online. In fact, it can be even better, because you can use multimedia, you can use very nice ways of impressing the kids and making them learn faster, easier, through games, through exercises, through puzzles, and so on. So content delivery, delivering content to the student is very good with online systems. However, the second part, the interactivity, need to be provided. MOOCs does not give you that interactivity. It is a one-way system to give you. There's a little bit of help with TAs and so on. But if you put your interactivity as part of your course, ensure that there is a teacher, even though from distance, that tries to act as facilitator, not a content provider. Answer the questions, help with homework, with experiments, run or drive the discussion forums, and so on. Then that facilitator becomes part of the school system. That does not need to be physically in the classroom, I believe. It can be done by distance. With Armenia Virtual College, this is the model that we used. The whole college is purely online. It has content through multimedia mechanisms, providing each lesson in a beautiful video, audio, text combination. But in addition, there is a facilitator, there's a teacher who understands the content, who understands the language, and who provides the help in running a virtual classroom. A virtual classroom where the students come from different continents, from different places. But that facilitator links them together, provides that interactivity, and also ensures that the peer pressure is there between the students to run the test, to do joint projects, to do the exams, and so on. So I think it can be done in online form if we are careful in ensuring that interactivity as well.
Okay, thank you. So it can be done with the right facilitation, okay? Whereas that's a little bit different. I heard you first say that the interaction among students in a physical space is crucial, but then again, I also hear you say that with the right facilitation, maybe. Okay, yeah, Marilu?
But actually it's happening. First we have to be all on the same level. What do we mean by online learning? It doesn't mean dumping everything there and imagining that a student is sitting in their home or somewhere and trying to figure out what it is. But there are schools now, there are high schools now that are online high schools. Like homeschooling, there is also online high schools, and the interaction is happening. So there is facilitate, there are teachers, actually not only facilitators, exactly the same way as a classroom, using Skype, physically they're not next to each other, but they're all in one virtual classroom. So I believe the same thing is happening. It's the same school system, but it's online, it's virtual. Virtual meaning they have to be present at the same time, online, interact with each other, listen, ask questions, and do, but it gives a lot of flexibility, and it's happening.
And does that influence learning, though? It's a different, because you don't interact physically with other people. I think Morten might have a comment on that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too early to say if it works or not, because of course it works because people are using it, but we still don't know the consequence of online learning. So it might be a very good idea, but I think rather than replacing the teacher, I think online learning can redefine the role of the teacher. So instead of, like if you go back like 200 years or just 100 years, the teacher definitely knew more than the students. But whereas today, students have online access to all kinds of databases, which means they actually sometimes know more than the teacher. But what the teacher needs to do nowadays is to learn, teach the students to be critical towards the resources they find online, because there's a lot of not very good learning out there, so a lot of wrong things on the internet, and so that is actually a new role of a physical teacher, to tell the students how to be critical towards what's online. Furthermore, I think that another role of the teacher is to try to do more experiments with the students. So, whereas if the flipped classroom I really like, because the students already know what they're supposed to know. They have the knowledge from the online resources, so they can actually work on problem solving, so they can ask questions, they can look into, do research, and they can also solve some real problems. And so if we want our future generation to be innovative, this is the way to go ahead, to have the teachers be very good at making their students be problem solving. So I think online resources can be efficient, but we still don't know if you can replace the teachers completely.
Thank you. Actually, that brings me to my next question, which is, since we... Yeah, absolutely.
I think the vision you're bringing up is something that's been brought up many, many times the last 20 years, that we should change the teachers into facilitators. But every time it's tried, the same thing happens. It works fine with the early adopters. It doesn't work with the large group of teachers out there. Why? Because it's much, much harder to teach that way. It requires teachers that are of a completely different caliber than the one our current system is using. So I actually think it's in a roundabout way that technology can help. Part of what we've been doing a lot of research in the last years is to have teacher guiding technologies, so that if you're a young teacher walking into a flipped classroom, if you're young and you're feeling insecure about what's going on, that's help. It's help because you don't know what questions are being asked. If you have to know everything on the spot, you're there in the spotlight. If you're in a community college in the Midwest and you just barely became a teacher, this is not an attractive model. They changed the medical school here in Copenhagen when I was in med school to problem-based learning, and it was hell. For the teachers, for the students, for everybody, it has failed again and again. It works in the early adopter institutions, it doesn't work in the other one. So if technology should impact this, it needs to ease the pressure on the 75, 80% of the teachers who are not perfect, are not great teachers, the average teachers, maybe even the struggling teachers. Otherwise, I don't think we'll get to that scenario. But I think that is the chance we have now. So part of what we've been doing a lot of research in is, what if that teacher walks into that classroom and get a quite precise diagnosis of what's going to happen? What if we can even adaptively put together what the teachers should prepare for rather than the students, so that there is a higher chance that most of what's happening during those 45 minutes is something that doesn't come as a surprise. Those surprises are really the main root cause for why these changes that make a ton of sense theoretically, but they've been constantly rejected over the last 2 decades we've been trying. So I think technology can help in that roundabout way by facilitating and preparing the teachers better to facilitate the students' learning.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And my next question was exactly, teachers are a crucial factor in one way or another. are they also hindrance? And I think you stated it very well when it's been said many times that it is a problem, and it is a barrier, that teachers have a hard time using these new softwares and what else that they would be asked to use. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what your experience is. How do you overcome that barrier? What are the challenges you face, and how do you overcome them? Yeah, Anna.
Okay, so I'm thinking we're talking about the teachers. They are not so they have no skills to start teaching with the problem solving on. So, but it is the first. So the distance learning is the technology, is the tool, and the books are also the tools. And distance learning is just a tool that can help to create the equal opportunities for the rural areas as well as in the capacity of the centers. So it is just about tools. But the methodology itself, it's a formal education system itself will be changed, because I'm to the global educational system and the other groups, and I've been in the Paris, and I see that lot of small alternatives are created in order to again reverse this create this phenomenalistic school again with discounts from the same place, and then it's broken. Dogmatic school start his development in Europe. So we need to talk about the changing of the learning system, talk about the teachers. So teachers should learn how to become a problemless, how to create a project-based approach, not a topic-based approach. Is the learning system, it's not about.
Okay, yeah. And then I'm curious to hear also, Kasper, what you have to say about that, since you work with helping teachers actually facilitate using technology. So maybe you can hear from you after. Yeah.
Okay. So if we look at this, there are three aspects for a teacher to be savvy in an online or this type of concern. One is content-wise, the knowledge of the topic area. The second is the online pedagogy. So you have to understand that the online skills are different. Attention span, the way you have to interact with the kids, and so on. It's totally different. So online pedagogy is second. And the third one is technology. So they have to know the technology, to be savvy of it. So all three of those have to be present in that same person. It's not very easy to take an existing teacher and transform that teacher to a teacher that knows these three things. Sometimes they're good in the content, but they're not good in technology. Sometimes they're good in technology, but they don't understand the online pedagogy. They haven't learned it, or they don't have experience with it. Nowadays, we prepare and train the teachers for about 6 months, given the fact that they know the content. So based on content, we prepare them with the online technology, with the online pedagogy, and the technology aspects. So these two require preparation. And we need the right character to go with it as well. Because if you are sitting in a distance and would like to run a virtual classroom that is distributed all over the world, you have to have the right character to interact with individuals, to be customer centric, to handle it. Versus a teacher who in a physical classroom would have a different character to run the classroom in a certain way.
So it's also a particular person, a particular teacher who does well in the distance learning setting. Yeah.
So there's definitely a preparation period needed, and not every teacher can be transformed to this type.
Sorry, could you speak a bit more into the mic? It's a bit difficult to hear.
Is it so? Okay.
Great.
Yeah, I guess I was still talking with an angle. Thanks. You want me to repeat what I say, or
No.
next time? We do.
Thank you.
All right. First, I would like to acknowledge that it is really difficult to move teachers to, or the majority of teachers to new technology. We are definitely working with a lot of early adopters at BTU, and I love it because they are all enthusiastic, and it's very easy to get things done with that group of people. And then once in a while, I also realize how difficult it is to get the masses onto these new and great things. But let me just tell you what we are at least trying to do. So on the one hand, we facilitate various types of e-learning, various types of technology involved in teaching, both in terms of AV systems at the university. So we try to, as we renovate old lecture halls, to put in systems that will allow people to do digital calls, like you may know it as clickers. There are various forms. Of course, you can do video recording and streaming of your teaching. We have done a lot to get the teaching into the digital channel. So instead of using analog whiteboard, we make sure that we also have digital alternatives that are really well suited to write on. And so we try to put down the barriers as much as we can to take technology, basically to substitute some analog classics like a whiteboard or blackboard. You can use a digitizer instead. And we believe that when we do that, we move a lot of things into the digital channel that will make it much easier to suddenly make a MOOCs or spread the teaching into the digital realm, of course.
So small steps, or is that a little bit?
Yeah, we try to bring down the barriers to take these things in. We also have the toolbox online. It's a website. You can search for various tools, how you can solve challenges you have in your teaching. We also provide courses to teachers, both new and old, and this is important because, of course, all the new PhD students that will eventually become professors and so on, they need some pedagogical training. But we also want to get in touch with the old teachers that has been around for many, many years to give them a brush up and teach them all the new things. And this is not strictly e-learning, of course, but all kinds. So we have like those two fronts. We have bringing down barriers to use technology, but also working with the culture of the teaching staff. And that is a difficult one, and I don't have a very clear answer to that. It is a challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, Mary-Lou, please, because I know that I was thinking about you, because at TUMO they just avoid the whole issue of working with teachers. Can you tell us a bit about that?
What I want to say for 1 minute, if you allow me to put the teachers on one side, like forget about them for 1 second. Let's forget about the teachers and see what we have. When you were stating all the technologies, and we all felt that there was something missing, right? The radio, the TV, the media, or the digital media, there was something missing. And now we are in a state where, for the first time, we have everything. Suddenly we have everything. We have the brain, us, all of us. We have the tool. And we just have to figure out how to make sense of all this and create something that will be the most beneficial for our students. So teachers will adapt. I'm pretty sure. There will be a generation that will fail probably, and then this new generation of these new kids that are coming, they're already savvy in technology. So we don't have to worry about that. They know how to use technology, and if you look at technology as a tool, then you understand you're the control, you're mastering it. And you can navigate and you can let it do whatever you want. So there is so much to be done now, and there is a big opportunity to make this happen and big success. That we shouldn't even think about the little thing, oh, the teachers, how they're going to adapt, but we have to think about the big picture and how to make the most intelligent platform where students will be able to learn better.
And just one comment, could you make one comment about the facilitators at the TUMO Center for Creative Technology?
Yes, so we have a system that combines two things. At the beginning, we thought that by creating this great content and by facilitating it, it will be easy. But we realized that the combination of two things, preparing the kids to learn by themselves and having facilitators and then having workshops is the best the environment for the students. we realized that by combining these three things, resources online that we are preparing and we're redesigning and we're repackaging, the facilitators that are helping the students to understand, and the beauty of that is that every kid is different. So they pace their time according to how they are, and some go very fast, some go slower. So you facilitate that learning, and they're not teachers; they're just a few levels above the students who have used the system and know how to use it, and know they don't have all the answers, but they can search for the answers, and they're picked well so they can help. And at the same time, we complement it with professionals that are coming and teaching in the group setting.
And Mary Lou actually told me that she thinks it's sometimes a lot easier to teach a professional about pedagogy than the other way around, which is an interesting thought.
I have nothing against teachers. I
No.
love teachers.
But
Don't get me wrong.
but it's interesting because you need to have
Yes, but
the skill level.
Yeah, experienced
Right.
professionals
Yeah.
sometimes can give their whole experience in such a short time than a theoretical teacher. But it depends on the subject.
One comment?
I need to bring the big teachers back on stage because I don't think you can replace teachers, and I don't think you should replace teachers because and just because it's difficult training teachers, we shouldn't stop doing it. I mean, educating teachers is probably the most important thing we can do here, and online media and internet and technology can help the teachers, but they definitely can't at this stage replace teachers. And I think one important message is also that we know today, at least, maybe it will be different in 30 years, but today, young people choose careers due to which teachers they have had in school. So if they've had a very good teacher in a certain class, they will choose to go this way. And so I believe if we want our future generation to be innovative, our teachers have to be innovative as well. So we have to train them to be ready for surprises during their teaching, because that's part of being innovative. You don't know what's around the corner. So you have to be able to adapt to that. So I don't think we can replace the teachers. I don't think we should, but I think we should help them using all these very efficient technologies. And I think in 50 years we'll know how to use them. But right now I want to stick to the teachers and train them.
Thank you very much. I wanna ask you, because a lot of you are talking about how it's important to teach kids how to learn. That's a new trend. We need to know what our strengths are as learners, and we're talking about adaptive learning. And I'm thinking adaptive learning, if it adapts so well to my needs, will I then know how I'm learning? Or, because I'm trying to get at, a couple of you are in the sort of, we learn through experience. You with the robots that you create with Instigate, it's hands-on learning, we try, we iterate, these types of things. Is that how we best learn how we learn? Is that how we get to know ourselves better? And is that lost if all learning becomes adaptive? I hope I'm making myself clear. Yeah?
It's a really cute question. There's no clear answer to it. I think it's a too simple question to ask. It's not a question of whether it's not adaptive versus non-adaptive. Actually, our original expertise is in simulation, so we've built very advanced simulators for years. That's our first company. We still do that. I think it's a question of having multiple tools in the toolbox. I think the aspect of developing the students with their cognitive skills, that's not either a result of the adaptive learning versus non-adaptive learning. That's a set of other tools we have in the toolbox. Whenever we ask a student a question, about 10 years ago, I realized that a good friend of mine, Anders Ericsson, you might know him, he's one of the leading memory researchers in the world. been widely published on expertise. It takes 10,000 hours to make an expert. That's his work. It's very interesting that what he found was that deliberate practice, your ability to see and understand what is happening when you're practicing and learning, that is actually what separates experts from novices. That's the most important parameter. That's the difference between the best and the worst. And what we were trying to do then is to try to translate some of this research into how could that be used in a learning system. So we came up with an idea, why don't we just ask them every single interaction we have with them how confident you are about this. In the psychology world has been called feeling of knowing, that's this theory area it comes from. And whenever you ask them a question, we ask them, how sure are you about the answer before we tell them whether it's right or wrong. There are some interesting things that happen there. The first one is, it actually looks like we can get them to reflect one more time. So we get a really simple extra repetition out of it. But there's another thing that happens is that over time, we can see that something changes with their metacognitive skills. In other words, their ability to monitor their own learning. Metacognition is more than this, but this aspect of it is interesting. We've had the opportunity to look at populations that are completely new to adaptive learning, and particularly this aspect of it, where we can see that over the course of a semester, what happens to their ability to know what they don't know? It drops. So we have 3 categories where you don't know what you're doing and you acknowledge that. The response times to acknowledging, I don't know this, or I'm not sure about this, they drop linearly over the course of the first semester they're using this. Then you can say they just get better at using the system, but there is a button right next to it which says, I'm sure about it, that must stay stable. We were lucky we had an internal control. This is a point-blank, very clear finding. What will happen to learning over time? 2 things. One of them is that they will be able to condense their learning experiences because they faster realize that they need to learn. The second one is that we constantly poke them with saying, you actually have to realize what you don't know. It's the number one thing that stands in the way between those learners and learning, that's that they don't realize they still need to learn. It's a massive impact of doing a very, very simple trick. Just ask them, do you know the answer? How confident are you about it? Somebody wants to try it, there is a do-it-yourself experiment. Some of you are old enough to have kids. If you have kids, do spelling words with them. Have 100 spelling words, 50 spelling words. Just ask them to show you 3 fingers if they're sure about the answers, 2 fingers if they're in doubt, and 1 if they just want to have a shot at it. Think about what you get out of it. You get out of it, first of all, you reduce your need to repeat more of the word. This is an example of what an adaptive system does as well. But another thing that happens is that you actually provoke and stimulate your kids to think about, where are my weaknesses? Where do I need to practice more? That might be the biggest individual or single biggest impact of adaptive systems, that you can impact their ability to know what they don't know.
Thank you. Yeah,
one time, Simon Packard was visiting Armenia and came to Toulon. Simon Packard came to Armenia once a few years ago, and there was a question.
Briefly explain
who is? Yeah, from MIT Media Lab. I think he's known as the guru of learning and using technology, so he told me that there is no kid that is not interested in learning. It's not like there are intelligent kids and non-intelligent kids. They all are eager to learn. It depends on how we're presenting the subject and how we're creating curiosity around it and how we're giving them feedback that affects the learning. So they are much more than what we think they are. They want to learn.
And this, you brought up the issue about feedback, because I think that's absolutely crucial to learning, and that's what might be a little different in the setting with the adaptive learning system and the real world where you experiment and you iterate. And I don't know if Aman or Morgan would like to speak to that.
Sure. I think those kind of systems are perfect for certain kind of questions. But if you want to teach young people how to, we need a lot of engineers, for example. If you want to teach them how to go through an engineering process where you first ask yourself a question and then you imagine what could be the answer, you plan some kind of experiment, and you then look at the results and create something and improve it afterwards, that's really difficult with those kind of systems, because it's not enough to use 1, 2, or 3 fingers. I think it's important to teach them that you can't just learn everything. You have to learn how to work with things. You have to learn methods. It's not enough just to have knowledge. Methods are definitely more important nowadays and in the future if you want an innovative engineering future in our part of the world, and I think we need that. So I think those kind of learning systems are perfect for certain kind of learning, but not for everything, and that's where I think we need the teacher.
Our experience at Armenian Virtual College in terms of learning or adapting the learning to individuals, we look at it from 2 aspects. Part of the learning is individually when a person is learning by himself or herself. Second part is the group learning. And there is need for both. So you have to do it by yourself. You need certain periods of time to do it by yourself, and other periods where you have to do it jointly with your virtual classmates. And that division seems to be 50-50. So if you're going to spend 6 hours per week on a given course, you have to spend, rule of thumb, 3 hours by yourself, 3 hours with your team. Now, when you're by yourself, different people learn in different ways. Some people learn better while reading. Others learn better by listening. Others learn better by eyes, by capturing pictures or videos. So we created our courses with these 3 tilts in mind. So you can put it on the reading mode and do reading only if you're a reading person. You can learn history and so on, or you can put it on audio, you can listen, or you can put it on video and pictures, put it the other way. So that's the most basic adaptation if you want to the learning skills that we did for individuals. Now, as groups, we did similar things as well. As groups, you can do various things. You can do research together, so we encourage them to do research by searching for answers beyond the course, going online and finding out various aspects and coming back, and doing joint projects with each other. So joint project was one place where you learn from each other, you prepare your project and put it on for comment, and lots of discussions. So every student is mandated to participate in discussion forums, to give opinions, to start forums or to comment on existing forums. And that also helps them learn further by having pressure to participate in discussions.
Okay. I have Casper, and then I have Ulf, and then next question.
Yes, I would like to just quickly note that in our experiences with MOOCs, we also have quizzes in MOOCs. That's one of the way they work. And quizzes has been around for a long time, and often you can use them for summative purposes as a teacher, but there we move them to a more formative purpose. So the students, they will know much more about how skilled they are at a certain point in time in the program, and that can also support mastery learning so that they can continue working on the subject until they fully understand it before they move on to the next one. And that's one of the things we have also gotten in terms of pedagogical advantages out of MOOCs, which was not apparent before. So it's not only about online, but we also have things like that coming to us automatically.
And Ulf, I'm curious because Jürgen is talking about these different learning preferences, or what to call it. Some learn visually, some learn through hearing. And how does Area 9 account for those types of learning styles?
So let me add a little bit of perspective on where we come from. We have close to 35 billion data points to look at. We've been searching high and low for these correlations. It was a concept invented by a British couple in order to facilitate teachers in thinking about kids probably learning different ways. But it's also one of the biggest myths in education that you can characterize and stereotype students into. I would claim that it's a myth, that you can stereotype students into just 3 categories. What we can see is that the individual span, variation on what you're trying to learn is so much wider than small, slight preferences in whether you have a small tendency towards visual or auditory learning in that traditional stereotypical type. If the variations on what you're trying to learn is so different, depending on whether you're trying to learn quantum theory or it's thermodynamics or it's the political system in Poland, I don't think that we can stereotype people into this. We've searched for also much more simple relationships here. They are not there. What really matters is that we learn like the intra-person variation is enormous in many different aspects. We've been looking a lot at this. That variation is so much more important. So let's say that you have 1 week where you're fighting with your girlfriend. You're studying a ton worse that week. It's much more important to account for that and try to predict whether you're visual or auditory learner. So I've actually been on a road show for the last many years and had this as one of my slides. And I think that with a p-value of 0.0000001 can completely dismiss that you can stereotype any of the students we've seen into this. I think it's very important that big data we will not reach educational singularity by big data. Like suddenly the computers will be so smart they can substitute teachers. But what we can do is we can start behaving like scientists and shoot down these things systematically. So what we should do instead is to say, so what can we say? What we actually can say is, we can see that there is an impact of letting the students choose right in the moment. Give them an option. Which one do you want to do next? The motivational benefit and reward you get for doing that is, as far as we can tell, much, much, much higher than trying to predict that you should do one over another.
Thanks. I think Morten has a final comment.
Yeah, just a short comment, because I totally agree that free choice learning, or whatever you want to call it, is really crucial. So motivation is crucial. But I also think that people learn in different ways. But I don't want to stereotype people, but we at Experiment Time see ourselves as one way of learning, and we see ourselves as some kind of teaching material for schools, because what we do most at Experiment Time is create experiences and experiment with things. So these are kind of two phases of a learning circle. We believe that everybody in this room learns from experiencing something, reflecting on what they have experienced, then they kind of conceptualize based on what they already know. So if you're riding on a bike and you fall, maybe next time you will pedal in a different way. So you reflect, you conceptualize, and then you go back to the experiment. And so this is kind of a learning circle where everybody learns and learn in the same way, but people have a preference of learning in different ways. So some people prefer not to think so much about what they've just learned, but get back on the bike again and try falling 10 times before they think about what they're doing. But they learn in that one way, whereas others have to read the manual 3 times to this bicycle before they get up on the bike. So I don't think we should stereotype people, but I think teachers and online systems should focus on that we do learn in different ways, and if you only focus on one type of learning in the systems, I don't say we do that, but then we will miss out on a lot of people.
I think a final question, and then we'll go over to Q&A from you guys. I am just curious, because this technology, the field of technology, is often discussed as more of a boy-dominated, male-dominated field. So I'm curious about girls, actually, a little bit. How are girls included in the various... Are you reaching girls? Is there an interest? So I'm getting at here, are we reaching as wide as at all possible? And you can also discuss whether you are reaching people with learning disabilities. So how is technology really a solution to the masses, and not just the people who can sit and go through it or have all their sensory abilities checked? And maybe, Adnan, since you work with computers, robotics, and programming.
Okay, we have about 300 employees in Armenia, and about 64% of employees are girls. And if we see that it is more than 7 are girls, so I don't think there is any.
And Are these the engineers?
Yeah, they are
These are the
technical
engineers.
engineers. There are different between them how they are working, because so girls are taking more care for quality, for the project, the deadlines. Men are more going inside, go deeper, and create and find some issues that are not possible for girls. So it is.
Thank you. Yeah, you can fight.
Just to confirm, in different countries we see these technological domains being influenced in different percentages gender-wise. I come from the US, in Silicon Valley. Our schools, as well as the population of people in technology, are. It's true that they are male-dominated over there, so it's not well balanced. However, in Armenia, we do have a location in Armenia. We have about 650 people as in Armenia. The population is very well balanced, from the school, from teaching institutions, universities, where engineering and computer science is almost half populated by males and females, and you see the same thing at the workplace as well. So I think it depends on the country, it depends on people's minds. So some places engineering or computer science is more dominated by males, and other places it's well balanced. Armenia is a good example of the balance.
Feel free to comment on as well, why might it work in Armenia? Work if we're aiming for a 50-50 balance. What are those differences that make a difference? What can we do differently?
One thing I wanted to mention, when we say technology, what are we talking about? Is it programmer or is it something else? So that makes a big difference. And we were having a discussion lately with Wolfram, and he said, can you imagine that the first programmer was a woman? I don't know her name, but apparently she was. My attitude as a woman, I always say there is no difference. It depends on how much you're encouraging and in which areas you're encouraging. But one very interesting aspect when we go back to computer science is how do you teach computer science? This is something new that is happening now. And it's not anymore about languages. It's not about teaching a language and preparing a programmer. It's about a whole different mentality and how do you prepare that person to become a programmer. It's not as clear as it is in math and physics. And it's a huge new area that is really very interesting to approach and to understand and to prepare all the material for that accordingly. And I don't think there will be any difference between women and men anymore there.
Thank you.
I'd like to address your question about the disabled students or the students with disabilities. A very large proportion of our development efforts and content development efforts are going into this. Much more than typically 1 to 1.5% of the students in an American higher ed institution are enrolled with the Department for Students with Disabilities. But we probably spend 10 times that proportion of the development efforts of making sure that we can cater for these students. And there are a number of things that are interesting. I'll bring some food for thought here. We spend the majority of our efforts on a very, very small part of the disabled students. It's a classic problem, addressing disabled students. But there is actually a very large group that is interesting, the students with ADHD. So half of the students in the typical department of students with disabilities have ADHD. That's the diagnosis they're enrolled with. That's not a student population that we usually address. There are 0 formal regulations that we have to live up to with the ADHD students. And may actually be that group of students where we can make the biggest impact. Short story, I was in a Starbucks one morning close to our Chicago headquarters, and one of the sales reps walked up to me and said, "Can I buy you coffee at this place?" I said, "No, but I guess you want to talk, right?" And she says, "I'd like to tell you a story about my stepdaughter, I adopted my adopted daughter. Her mother was a drug addict. She was completely destroyed kid, severe learning disabilities, but a good kid. She had difficulties, like, it's not classic ADHD, but attention deficits of different kinds. I gave her my company login my sales rep login for one of the adaptive systems, and I also told her that like kids with that kind of destruction behind them often make like reward systems, like they have to pay money to see television, have to have like really clear feedback mechanisms for desired behavior. So she also started saying she would get some of this money for doing this. Suddenly the girl started acing her class out of the blue. B minuses, A minuses. One semester later, she enrolled in an honors class in biology. So I got a top achiever class in biology. So a student who had, they knew ahead of time that she was intelligent because she had spot performances that were really good, and then she would like fail a full math test. And then she would be able to do some pretty hard math in the same area. Day after, bang, out. Here we had something where it was patient enough to work with her every day, keep her on course, and suddenly she was actually doing this. I got an email from her about half a year ago. I hired her as one of our test students. It's a small private project I have on our new big math platform. And she sent me this kind email saying, I'm 2 years ahead in math now. This is a student that 3-4 years ago had severe learning disabilities. I think that's the group of disabled students that we can really make a difference because there's a lot of them and they're actually struggling in the current system.
Thanks. We're going to have to cut to the audience. Do you want to have more than you have the mic? Kasper, final comment?
Okay, well, just quickly, I think we are not doing anything particular for the girls at the Technical University of Denmark, and as far as I know, although this may be anecdotal, the girls are actually getting better grades than the boys, so maybe we should focus on getting back to them. But we do use technology to facilitate learning for people with disabilities like hearing disabilities, and recently we made some videos where it really made sense because we had a translator doing deaf translation, if that's the word for it. We included that on the video feed, so we now also have a huge mathematical engineering course now with the translation for deaf people in Danish, and that's one cool way to use technology in our case as well. So
thank you. And Morten is pleading for a very small comment.
Because now nobody thinks that the girls like engineering, but I can actually tell that in our engineering project, the kids who were young people who were most interested in the engineering project were the girls. This was really surprising. But what we focused on in this project was actually trying to make some relevant education which was relevant to teenagers, because teenagers, they care about themselves. So they don't care about dinosaurs or rocks or mountains or all the science around them, and they care about the problems in their everyday. So we created a project where they had to solve problems in their everyday. So problems which were relevant to them, and what we saw were that this stimulated the girls especially to interact with the teaching, and they actually wanted to become engineers afterwards. So I think if you do something about it, you can actually have more female engineers.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and yeah. This has inspired some questions, some doubts, comments. Anything is very welcome. Yeah.
I'm just going to sit down before asking. I'm working with e-learning sometimes. I'm working with online stuff most of the time. And one of the things that I've been wondering about connecting to e-learning is pervasive computing. Because I think we talked about HDHD and the people, the kids, the small kids, the boys up in the trees, but they all have a smartphone now. And if we could integrate learning about the big machine on the road, or the things that they pass on the way to school, or in the museum, but I don't think you should drag them into that so early. Maybe the experimentation think the possibility of integrating learning chips, just like they're talking about integrating buying chips in everything nowadays, is that something that you think about? Is it there, or is it just a dream? Is it just something on the cloud?
Yeah, Morten, that?
Yeah, I think you're right, and if there's something teenagers care more about than themselves, it's their iPhones. So we actually doing an exhibition at the moment where we are building a digital bridge between the exhibition, which is about health promotion. So we're trying to get families to exercise more, and so we're building a digital bridge which is bridging to their home, because we know they're not going to have to learn enough about health promotion to change their lifestyle. So, but we made a virtual dog. So we developed a virtual dog on an iPhone. And this dog, the families are supposed to it's a bit like a Tamagotchi. So when they walk around in the neighborhood, they have to walk the dog and they have to pee in separate places. And every time they do that, they get points. And they also have to conquer other families' areas, so the dogs have a kind of territory. This is a way we have found out by doing research with these families, that in order to change their lifestyles and their health style, if you want, is by making them do things together. And it's really difficult to do that, but by having these this common dog, we've actually managed to make them do more exercise. So you can actually build the bridges and do some kind of learning by doing that.
Thanks. There are more questions for the group? Yeah.
I think what you have in mind belongs to that category of relatively expensive, high-intensity learning situations. Mass producing it, you're running into a very daily issue. We have made about 900 adaptive learning products, and all of them take several man years to create content for them. I think that there is an incredibly overheated edtech space right now. The number of people thinking that technology alone can bring great educational experiences is absurd. We're getting 25 to 100 proposals a week around edtech companies who think that they have found the trick to get computers to teach. I think it's in the cross-section, the intersection between content and technology that will find the real value. So it's still very much teachers, people curating content delivered by technology. That technology can be quite intelligent. In order to use pervasive computing and also other things, it could just be present stuff from CNN or other things in sociology teaching. It's very, very hard because it's hard to mass produce it at a rate we can afford. I think for us, it's a very day-to-day problem that not only do we have to make something that is world-class, we also have to make it at a cost where students can actually afford it. I did a Reddit session 3 or 4 weeks ago where 1/3 of the questions were about the incredible cost of the stuff that my company makes, not Area 9, but McGraw-Hill. So it is very much a question of making sure that the impact will be how great can we make it, and how many students can we reach where they can still afford it. So I think that we can do it in spots, and I do think what Experimentarium is doing is great, but we can do it in a few areas. We have to be very selective where we try.
Sorry, try to keep it short, just so, because there are a couple people. Yeah.
We have to remember that it's difficult. It's not about content. It's about the component that you have to add, the artificial intelligence that will give you feedback or react, will understand the question, will answer. All those things are very important. One little thing. The first day I was in Denmark, I went to a coffee shop and I asked if you have Wi-Fi. He said, no Wi-Fi here, no laptop. Have you seen the sign on the table? You can't use laptops in this coffee shop. I said, okay, no laptop, no tablet. Can I use my phone? He said, yes. I said, but do you know that the phone is exactly the same thing? He said, no, it's not. I didn't continue the conversation, but it was very nice.
I would like to know, you're talking a lot about young people and university students, but how can we use the technologies that you're working on to improve sort of the lifelong learning for people that are already working? So from my point of view, I'm from the Danish Society of Engineers, and we're really trying to get more engineers to sort of focus on lifelong learning and sort of get improve their knowledge of new technologies.
So I think the short answer to it is it may actually have a bigger impact there than anywhere else. It's just a question of moving back and starting to address the areas that is more under controllable circumstances. So it's actually easier to spread them in the university system. A lot of impact will not come until you've grown up with these technologies. So for the adaptive learning systems, let's say that you're a physician or you're an economist or an engineer. Your tool set in here consists of a lot of things, but if I don't have a map of how you got there, it's much more complicated for me to help you later than it is if you grew up with these technologies and I've tracked how you learned this over many, many years. So what we do think is that the impact right now, there is some, but the amount of new learning that is happening is relatively minimal postgraduately. It's during where you can really impact with the adaptive technologies, which is my main area of interest, is if we can follow how you learned it in the first place, then we can help you make sure you don't lose it again. But I like to follow first how you learned it in the first place. So in other words, compile all of these together, 10 years from now, we'll be able to help postgraduately as well.
And Yellow, do you have a comment? And then I think we have one more question, and then I know someone...
Again, based on our experience, we noticed that lifelong learning, of course, is important, and the topics that we teach fit very well for lifelong learning. But if we look at the age distribution among our students, and our students go from 8 years old to 88, 1/3 of them are between 40 and 88. Which means that, yes, 2/3 are in the younger or youth ages, but we have 1/3 of them above 40. It depends on the person. If the person is more technology savvy, is more familiar with the tools, with the computers, with the tablets and so on, they will learn faster. And
As brief as possible.
So you kind of agree that we still need teachers and they can't be replaced, but my question is about, do we still need physical schools and universities, or they can be replaced by these virtual classrooms or forums if interaction is well provided? And even for experimenters, like, can it be, for example, created virtual laboratories and make virtual experiments? So, like, we don't really need real experiments anymore because, well, the laws of physics, they are well known already. There's nothing new will be outcome, or reagents, or in chemistry and biology, everything can be designed and programmed. So, what's your opinion about it?
I really don't know the answer to that. Right now, I would say no, you can't replace the physical room, but I might also be wiser in 30 years if the systems turn out to be intelligent enough to actually. We're focusing a lot of on physical interaction and sensors, and I think that it's extremely important in order to learn that you use all your senses. So I think if these intelligent systems can adapt to that, then yes, you could replace it, but there's a long way to that.
I could actually be a quite simple answer to it. I think we'll be able to do more with less. So if you take Western governors, 47,000 students completely all online. What they're doing now completely online is a lot better than what they did 5 years ago. So they do more with less. But I think in general, wherever we have the face-to-face environments available, we are able to cater for something else. What's the number one reason why school kids go to school? Social interaction. Learning something is number 5 or 6 on the list. So it's I do definitely think that the brick and mortar schools still have a role to play, very important one, but I think we can do more with less.
And same for organizing and everybody else good. And then my question would be, would you agree that all the data allows us to perfect the courses itself, and which was not able to do it before? And if so, what trends do you see in the future? What seems to be the most effective way of teaching students? Yeah, that would be my question.
So what's the most effective way of teaching students?
Yeah.
If I may edit on that question, I would like also to ask, how fast can we learn new things?
Our approach is that it needs to start not from theory, but from the experience. It should be project-based and not topic-based, and teachers of the future will become like a company, the students, not to teach them. So it is not about being the source of knowledge, it is about to just accompany them. And the learning should not be the duty, because when you start with theory, it is just a duty, driven by duty. And if you start with the projects,
the world of healthcare, suddenly we now have a constantly increasing quality of what we're delivering. It wasn't like that before. Publishing was an opinion-based profession, where you ask people what they thought students know and don't know. And long story short, we know that it's very, very hard to predict what student finds hard. If you measure it instead and help guide the resources where they're needed the most, I think we'll spend the investments a lot better than we've ever done before. So I think it's an acceleration of quality of content, because the stuff we've done in the past is not going away. We're just constantly improving it based on data.
The short answer is that learning can happen very fast if you need that kind of learning. So if the question is relevant, then you learn quicker. So I think that is where adaptive learning can be used very efficiently. And whereas with grown-ups, for example, the short question is that your answer is that you need to repeat the learning many times in order to learn, because like 90% of what we do in our everydays is because we used to do it. So it's really difficult to learn something new for grown-ups. But so it's different from grown-ups and kids.
I believe that learning today is more difficult, because it's not anymore like you go to an engineering school and you get your degree in certain area and that's it, and you're an engineer. These days, if you're an engineer or you're a programmer or you're a doctor, a lot of things that you don't know, you're supposed to know, and you're supposed to teach yourself, and you're supposed to find and research it by yourself. So learning is these days much more difficult than before. It's not like clear-cut, and to become a competitive professional, you have to be able to solve problems and be able to know a lot, or be able to find the solutions by yourself. Not anymore like before, if you had a diploma, that's it, you get a job and you're fine. It became much more difficult these days, and I believe that there is a big challenge for this new generation.
And for learning it's not. I think it's Gami that's
take all these great ideas, and in 10 years we'll implement them, right? Because we work with students who would like to work with real problems in real world, with real businesses. We've got 3,500 students, about 1,500 staff, teachers, administrators, and we are within business and technology, but also within areas which are normally not associated with the university world, like process engineering and food medicine, or food science. One of the areas that we have been focusing on since we started out was internationalization. We wanted to do more than just attract foreign students to Denmark. We have about 40% foreign students at CBAT, and we have, and our facilities had that number for about 10 years. But we wanted to do something more. We wanted to see if we could offer the way that we are teaching in Denmark somewhere else in the world. So I had a good friend, I still have, I hope, Tatovik and Amstream. And Amstream was the main reason why we got interested in Armenia in the first place. So why Armenia? Well, first of all, it's a place of opportunity. We think that it's a relatively small country with a huge potential within computer science. We had a survey, or we did ask a lot of people in Armenia, and they could use about 2,000 to 4,000 computer programmers within the next couple of years. And computer programmers, that is what we do. It's a long process. We need to go through a lot of bureaucratic red tape, both here in Denmark but also in Armenia, in order to achieve this. But this will be the first and probably first of many attempts to do Danish education at this level anywhere. The next thing is that we'll try to get the first students interested. We'll start out with 90 students in September 2015, all computer science, and we'll move from there, and then we'll do 2.5 years.
Okay, finally, the final part of the program today will be, we had a competition called Reimagining Education. We will have now 10 minutes of pitching, 5 minutes to one and 5 minutes to one, and hopefully this will be an inspiring and energizing.
Before my speech, I just want to tell you a couple of things. Before coming to Denmark, I have prepared a pretty long speech and pretty long presentation about the 5 years work that we did in Armenia. But yesterday night, I understand that I don't want to come up with that one. So I completely changed it. Because what I want to do is to present and talk today a little story. A story about myself. A story about how we started, and at the end, I really want you to make your decision whether my story is a successful one or not. So I want to start it with first slide. My name is Serena Loyan. I am from Armenia, and I'm proud of it. About 5 years ago, I was in the United States doing my studies, and I started exploring the system of United States education. And then when I was back to Armenia, I started researching the field of education in Armenia. And I found a lot of gaps, and I found a lot of problems. And then I thought, why don't we find the solution to these problems? So I have decided to create the solution to this. I went to the government doors, and I knocked to the doors. And then I knocked it again. And then I knocked it until they opened the doors, because the doors were really, really heavy. But I managed to, because there was a small space, and I jumped into that space, and I just saw the Prime Minister of Armenia. And I said, I just need 5 minutes. And he said, okay, this is all you have, 5 minutes. Go ahead and explain what you want to. I said, I'm here to make opportunities and possibilities and challenges. I piloted in 2 schools with probation period from government with 2,000 users. Today, after 4 years, I have already 1,384 all Armenian schools connected to Dasaran AM with more than 843,300 registered users. For you just to understand, this is almost 1/3 of our population. I have created a close social network and beat it up even Facebook in Armenia. Today I have more traffic than Facebook has. I have created 18 educative online games, making education more fun for students. Dear friends, my primary philosophy, the primary philosophy of Dassaran AM is initiative, is based on the evident truth that education is the most powerful and vital instrument to transform our society by empowering youth. We have created an environment that enables educating new generation on multiple issues vital to raise a good citizen. The method that we employ and the events that we organize leave lifetime impact on the mentality and behavior of the new generation. With all these electronic features, Dassaran AM has become an integral part of schools. It has impacted the school management philosophy and style. It has changed the approach of students, moms and dads, teachers and principals towards education. Now this is what makes us unique. This is how we create a new imagination of education. And to conclude my speech, I know there are smart and powerful people sitting here in this room. Some of the people always understand when you have almost 1 million users, then this is kind of a perspective for business, or this is a place for investment. But I'm here. I arrived to Denmark 7 days ago with only one goal, one idea: to ask for a help, to spread this platform, franchise it in the world or in the countries like Denmark, because this is the platform which really changes. I have already met with 47,000 teachers and worked with them to raise the computer literacy. This was really hard, especially when you work with the people with age over 50 and older. And at the end, why I asked Mr. Zorian to be here, Armenian Virtual College, you can help us please to connect all Armenians around the world, the biggest diaspora that we have, to the platform. So what I want to is, be our next partner, be the next to benefit. I am Suren Alun, I'm from Armenia and I'm proud of it. Thank you.
And this is not so technology-oriented, but nonetheless we felt that it was worth the effort as it's inspiring. Please, take it away.
Your Excellency Ambassador Alajanian, Consular Sargsyan, dear panelists, dear guests, I'm Ashot Markaryan. I'm coming from Nagorno-Karabakh, an independent republic which suffered a lot from the war with Azerbaijan. It's a country where every moment there is a high risk of the war renewal. People there still face everyday challenges with finding jobs and improving their living conditions. I represent a new startup called WWT-AM, Woodpeckers, Wood Toys, or Worldwide Toys. This is a small but fast-growing startup founded in Karabakh 2.5 months ago, and it has a history behind. After completing my studies at University College London, I got an invitation to work in Nagorno-Karabakh. Having a motivation of changing the country for the better, I started visiting the villages in all the regions of Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, to become more familiar with everybody and with everyday problems the local people have. Up to now, I have managed to cover 102 villages out of 223 there. Getting my first month's salary, which was only about $420. I didn't know what to do with this little amount of money, and I decided to invest it in the project, which I think can be the future of Karabakh youth and can create new working places there. My own observation brought me to the idea that the conflict resolution might only be achieved through fostering economic cooperation in the region. For this reason, we established the Peace Entrepreneur Consortium that sees the conflict resolution through the creation of socially responsible companies that create an ecosystem for economic prosperity in the region. WWT is a founding member of this consortium. It aims to be an attractive platform that supports the education of children and provides continuous, relevant, and motivational development for all its workers. What else makes us different from all the other companies and startups is working and investing in a conflict zone, being a not-for-profit organization which facilitates the peace dialogue, educates people, and has the vision of expanding regionally and involving in its circle the neighboring countries. I would like to show a short video. It is only 1 minute, just a quick overview. Slogan here, it is written made for kids by kids. But it doesn't mean that kids do some kind of physical work or they participate directly physically in all what we do there. It is a part of reimagining education, which is the most important thing for teaching the kids to learn. Through this learning to play and playing to learn, actually, children and adults involved in this project are the designers. They add colors to whatever product we have. They decide the shape and size, and in this sense, they are behind the whole production. We wanted to build a bridge between the production and the society, and make our products and the idea, the project, more transparent to the society and let people, all of the interested parties, to participate in it, either as volunteers or as workers, freelance workers that will work with us throughout the regions. So what we decided to do first, all of these Soviet-style furniture, fabrics that we had in our country, we decided to change them. It is a social and educational program, and through investing $420 in all this project, now we have a company that feeds itself. We have a company, a socially responsible one, which funds educational and social projects. We help children in need and teach them skills they will need in their careers when becoming adults. And we do think that all the companies should support the communities they are part of. That's it. I have too much.
Thank you so much. There you have it, social innovation in a conflict area in Armenia. And we are are going to end on a less conflicted note. I want to thank again our panelists for sharing your wisdom in the EdTech space. I want to thank all of you for coming. And I really hope that this has inspired also thinking about education in a broader perspective, and that there are best practices happening around the world. So it's maybe also a good idea to start thinking about how we leverage these opportunities to learn from each other. Thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.